Sean, first of all, I'd like to welcome you to Life Science Success Podcast. It's great to have you here.
Don, it's great to be here. Thank you for inviting me and asking me to sit in for an interview.
Yeah, so what do you think of bio so far?
The energy here is intoxicating. It's been so far a day and a half of a lot of meetings, and it's just invigorating to talk to all of the people about the different things that are going on. And Evoke Bio is extremely well positioned to be here. We belong here this year. We've been successful with passing our pre-IND meeting back in March with the FDA for our EVQ-218 Pulmonary Therapeutic.
Very nice. So why don't we start with a little bit about you and sort of who you are, and then what led you to want to be in life science?
Yeah, that's a great question. I actually have sold a few companies, and I spend a lot of my time in the logistics and the technology sectors. When I came across the science of Evoke Nano, my attorney actually that was working for me for about 15 years has 2 daughters with cystic fibrosis. Well, cystic fibrosis, as you may or may not know exactly, is that heavy peanut butter in their lungs versus you and I have simple slime in our lungs. And that heavy peanut butter, that heavy mucus becomes a breeding ground for infections. And so finding out about what Evoke Nano had created with its asset EVQ-218 just inspired me to learn and grow and understand exactly what this nano material could do.
And so then from that initial idea, how long has it been? How long have you been in business?
Well, in 2007, William Niedermeyer actually discovered a high-energy laser process to create these unique nanoparticles. And when I learned about it, Evoke, it was just about 4.5 years ago when I learned about it. The company has been around officially since 2011, but it's really just been a science project. The company consisted of a bunch of science work and an accountant to keep some simple books on simple expenses. And when I discovered what was going on and all the things that had proven with this nanomaterial, I really got passionate about it, because after selling a few companies, there's something that is bigger than just money. And when I recognized the ability to impact human lives in a positive way, I have just become extremely passionate about it. And the fact that EVQ-218 has been proven successful in killing the 9 most dangerous bacteria on the planet identified by the World Health Organization, and at the same time showing no toxicity, no cytotoxicity, no damage to epithelial lung cells, and to tie that back to the idea that here I've got this dear friend with 2 daughters with cystic fibrosis. Our belief is, and evidence is showing, that with our pulmonary therapeutic, with using EVQ-218, cystic fibrosis will become a nuisance and not a death sentence.
Oh, wow. Wouldn't that be nice?
It will be nice. We're excited about the path we're on, and extremely pleased with the results that we have so far.
So cystic fibrosis, is it considered as a rare disease?
It is. It's considered an orphan disease. We do believe that this has the capability to become a broad spectrum antibiotic, EVQ-218 being, as I mentioned, showing an efficacy against 9 of the most dangerous pathogens on the planet that have formed drug resistance. Not only can EVQ-218 kill those with no toxicity concerns, but also one of the big parts about it is the size of our nanomaterial has proven successful to penetrate the biofilm in the lungs, and many things such as tobramycin and several other drugs used in that environment, they have a very difficult time penetrating the mucus just to get to the bacteria. So not only are we getting to the bacteria and killing it, but we're penetrating that sputum, which is something that cystic fibrosis patients have struggled with any drug delivery.
Yeah, amazing. And so what do you see as the pathway forward? Where are you currently at, and what do you see as the path forward?
Yeah, our path forward, again, the reason we're here at Bio is we're here talking with investment partners, with co-development partners, sharing the good news of the results and the data that we have at this point. And with EVQ-218 being effective against these superbugs, we see this as potentially the biggest, the only broad spectrum antibiotic solution in the last 60 plus years, and showing no drug resistance. Because our method of action does not lyse and destroy the cell wall of the bacteria, we've been successful with doing a 35-day serial passage test without showing any resistance, where typically an antibiotic starts to form resistance between 4 and 6 exposures. And so this broad spectrum antibiotic approach, we can go after things such as TB, where there's 10 million cases every year and over 5 million go untreated.
Yeah. Yeah. That's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And so, so in terms of the meetings that you're having here and the things that you're hoping to walk away with from the conference, is what's the next step that you see for Evoke?
Yeah, the next step is we're confidently moving in towards clinical trials. We will be finishing our IND studies over the next year, and we will be filing our IND. We anticipate end of Q3 or beginning of Q4 of 2025, and from there, moving aggressively into a phase 1B to a combination trial, and finding the right investment partner or co-development partner is mission critical for us at this point.
Yeah.
To move the ball forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine that there's a fair amount of minds here. I've said this before in other episodes as well, that the thing that I really hear a lot about with regards to the partnering meetings here is that you get the opportunity to sort of talk about things that are in line with stuff that you're doing today. But you also have this opportunity to like broaden the thinking, because you probably have other people that have other ideas that they can do with nanoparticles as well.
Absolutely, Don. This platform technology that we've created and we've discovered, we've got a lot of really strong IP around it, but the efficacy is pretty broad. Here at Bio, we don't necessarily talk about all of the broadness and applications to it. We are very focused on this therapeutic, but this therapeutic we see. First of all, with the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation's support, we've received 2 grants from the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation, which did efficacy and safety testing, and the ability to make that a broad spectrum solution, and then being able to at some point in the near future, be able to target things like tuberculosis, where there's just such an unmet need and it's so harmful, and there's so many deaths occurring, and our ability to create this material at scale is one of the most critical elements of success that we've discovered, because we see a path of being able to treat some of these big worldwide problems that are really hard to address at this point from an economics perspective.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, are you finding the investment community to be one that's really sort of looking to help support the development of these things, or has it been the same challenge that we've heard across the board from a lot of companies?
Yeah, it is. It's a unique challenge because, as you and others well know, the investment dollars for antibiotics are few and far between when you're talking about infectious disease. But the reason that is because of the drug resistance element, right? Even when drugs have been successful through a phase 3 clinical trial, governments, including our own, showed those products for a pandemic type of situation with bacteria, with drug-resistant bacteria that is spreading rampantly and causes this sort of pandemic. One of the key successes of us is not showing drug resistance. The idea that we can be a broad-spectrum antibiotic and EVQ-218 can be efficacious and safe, and not forming drug resistance because our method of action does not break apart the cell wall to open those communication channels for mutation. That's as big as news as I think you're going to see here anywhere at Bio.
Yeah, and a great story, I would imagine, to tell, overall. I mean, there are lots of people that want to work on antimicrobial resistance and things like that, but also, to have a drug that just doesn't show that same level of overall development is great. So,
yeah, it's very exciting. We couldn't be more excited about it. It's been a lot of years of hard work and discovery, and a lot of people that you never do anything alone. The Cystic Fibrosis Foundation has been amazing. The University of Utah and their science department and what they bring to the table with their STEM imaging equipment. We are the first and only non-ionic silver that's proven antimicrobial. The American Chemical Society did a did a publication on the characterization of our particles as the only non-ionic silver showing antimicrobial effect, and including antimicrobial with efficacy against fungi as well. So although it's hard to find the investment dollars from the traditional idea of drug resistance, and no money is really going into the infectious disease because of that, when the light bulb comes on with our conversations with people that understand our method of action and understand that we're not contributing or building up that drug resistance, the response is very astonishing. So we have no questions that and no overarching concerns that we won't find the funding and the partnerships that we need.
Right.
Evoke Bio's asset of EBQ218 it's pretty hard to find something even that matches up to it with regards to efficacy, safety, and drug resistance.
Right. As I looked at the company, it looked like you guys are growing. Is that right?
We are growing. Yeah. We are growing. We're having success in a few other verticals with medical devices under antimicrobials and with a pursuit around textiles and surface treatments that have been extremely successful. The EPA has given us 3 registrations that are extremely unique because of the efficacy of our particles and the safety profile. So we are growing. We're having great success. We built a brand new state-of-the-art facility specifically for what's in our pipeline. Last year, we've been in this building for about a year in Salt Lake City, Utah. The state of Utah and Bio Utah has been extremely supportive and helpful in the process of building and identifying what EBQ218 capabilities are actually going to mean in the medical and life science world.
So tell me, let's just envision, right, that we're sitting here at Bio, maybe 5 or 10 years in the future. What do you hope really happens with Evoke, and sort of, what do you hope that the future is for the company?
Yeah, the future of the company, I mean, our mission and purpose is to improve patient outcomes in the hospital environment. That is number one, most important thing. 5 years from now, I can see it. It doesn't feel dreamy to me. 5 years from now, I can see us having a broad spectrum antibiotic on the market that can serve as a first line of defense for cystic fibrosis patients and other people experiencing pulmonary exacerbations, and making an impact, really truly changing patient outcomes. And in addition to that, our pursuit around these antimicrobial devices, the success and all the companies that are working on those processes to reduce those secondary infections in the healthcare acquired infection category. So if you think about what's going on in the medical world, I think 2 things are prevalent in all of our minds. Healthcare acquired infections. How do we get that under control? Sometimes the most dangerous thing to do when you're sick is go to the hospital.
Right.
And secondly, drug resistant.
Right.
The World Health Organization has said, talked about drug resistance now loud and proud for the last 15 years it's the existential threat to humanity.
Yeah.
And the fact that, Don, think about that. The fact that the investment dollars have dried up because of that.
Yeah.
Here we have the World Health Organization telling us the existential threat to society, and the investment dollars have dried up in the infectious disease categories. But it's because of this risk of drug resistance.
Right.
We have crossed that hurdle.
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing place to be. And so to be here at Bio and talking to you and the other parties that we're talking to with this and the other interviews that we have, I couldn't be more excited.
Right.
And I couldn't thank you more for taking the time to make sure that people hear about this.
Right. Yeah, it's so important. I mean, I was just told yesterday that there was a friend of mine that has, his wife has MRSA on her nose, on the outside of her nose, just like a red spot. And, of course, she's being treated and things like that. But it's one of those things where you just, you never know sort of the extent that some of these things could go. And amazingly enough, I mean, when you need antibiotics or you need some way to fight an infection, you just need it, right? I mean, and I've talked about this gap, this sort of, current valley or dry up of capital that we have in life sciences is something that I envision that if we were to fast forward, let's just say 3 years from now, because a lot of companies, right now, you might not feel the impact in terms of the innovation that's not happening, but also there's a lot of things that have been slowed in terms of the development that companies have just to conserve cash to make it through this time period. And then, you start to add into that, companies that want to bring to light drugs that, aren't as sexy as some of the more interesting,
Right.
things. That's one area, where it can be a challenge. But also, there's just this point where, let's rewind the clock all the way back to 2020, whenever we were all sitting here with, looking at potential of getting COVID and not having a vaccine. Oh my, let's hurry up and go make a vaccine, right?
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't want that same thing to happen with infections and needing
Don, that statement gives me goosebumps, and the reason it does is it's a little bit serendipitous that we're here when we are right now with EVQ 218. Evoke Bio being able to develop this asset of EVQ 218 that's not forming drug resistance and proving effective against the world's worst superbugs and showing no toxicity concerns in our preliminary evidence. That is hopefully on the front of something catastrophic that at some point we're going to face.
All right.
I mean, the World Health Organization doesn't put out these warnings just because.
Right.
And as more bacteria is released into the world and the environment, as the ice caps continue to melt, those bacteria that are unknown to us even at this point, what are we going to do? If the situation you talk about of creating a vaccine last moment, I think about EVQ 218 being around during COVID and what that would have done.
Right.
The fact that we could have been able to deliver efficacy in a pulmonary setting where so many of the deaths that were experienced with COVID were related directly to pulmonary infections.
Right.
And that to me is the sad part of this story. Right. And our approval process is stringent, and our regulatory process is appropriately stringent to make sure that good quality products and drugs get onto the market. And at the same time, we're fortunate as well because we're going after an orphan disease with a designation of going after pathogens like Burkholderia and Pseudomonas. Give us the ability to have EVQ 218 and our pulmonary therapeutic go through fast track status and accelerated review with the FDA. That's a wonderful situation that it puts us in. But more than just getting to approval and commercialize is, in my mind, as the CEO of Evoke Bio, I think about how fast can we start actually saving people's lives that are dying from pulmonary infections.
Yeah.
That to me is that is the mission and purpose. And it's the reason I got involved with, I'm not a scientist by my background. I'm not a microbiologist. I'm not a chemist. I'm a businessman that has been successful in building and commercializing and selling companies. I didn't get involved in this organization because of that. I got involved with this because I'm at a stage in my life going, I want to make an impact for good.
Right.
And this science is so revolutionary. EVQ 218 is so revolutionary. I see the potential. The evidence points to this being something the world is in desperate need of, and at the same time doesn't know how desperate the need is.
Right. And heaven forbid we ever get to that point, but
Heaven forbid.
Yeah. Well, it's a great point to end the interview. I really appreciate your time, Sean, and thank you for coming and telling me about Evoke, and thanks for being on the Life Science Success Podcast.
My pleasure, Don. Thanks for having me.